Well, everyone, buckle up because we have big Sandbox changes to discuss coming with Shadowkeep. I don't know if these are all of the changes coming with Shadowkeep, but there's still a lot to cover regardless. So let's get to it. First up are auto reload mechanics. It was discovered at PAX West that supposedly Lunafaction boots and Rally Barricade no longer auto reloaded your weapons, and that has been confirmed true. Lunafaction and Rally will no longer auto-reload from reserves and instead grant increased reload speeds. This is happening because Guardian power levels are insane, and while the problems of auto-reload have always existed, they've been multiplied due to how powerful weapons in Destiny have become. Next, super energy generation basically across the board is getting toned down. Orbs from supers and masterworks were reduced by 50% in gains, while kills and assists were toned down by 25%. Essentially, Bungie wants teamwork, mods, and perks to matter more with super generation, feel more worthwhile, and or be a greater influence in your loadout, while also toning down how often we get supers, which can trivialize certain content. You know, like most of it. We also got actual percentages for how much energy you get based on what happened, which is a refreshing change of pace. Next, damage multipliers. Yep, those are getting toned down as well. With the way you can stack buffs and debuffs in Destiny currently, team damage output has exploded out of control, rendering threatening enemies as mere target practice and allowing raid bosses to melt in seconds. Starting with Shadowkeep, only the strongest damage buff on you will actually apply. Then when that buff falls off, the next strongest will apply. This change affects Empowering Rift, Frontal Assault, Guiding Flame, Sun Warrior, Inertia Override, Well of Radiance, Lumina, and Weapons of Light. Things like Rampage, Kill Clip, or other weapon-specific effects will still stack multiplicatively though. Frontal Assault and Sun Warrior are now 20% damage boosts, down from 25%. Well of Radiance is 25%, down from 35%. And Weapons of Light is 35%, up from 25%. As far as debuffs go, Shadow Shot, Tractor Cannon, Hammer Strike, and Shatter Strike are now a 30% damage increase in PvE and 50% in PvP for Tractor and Shadow Shot. Shadow Shot now affects power weapons again, and Hammer Strike and Shatter Strike had their durations increased to 10 seconds, up from 6. Next, super damage resistance has been nerfed. Most roaming supers are mindless, allowing for tons of kills without much resistance from an enemy, especially in a 1v1 situation in PvP. In PvE, players shouldn't feel like they're completely invincible, and in PvP, there needs to be a higher chance of actually being able to take someone on in a super. Damage resistance in your super has been removed from armor via the masterworking effect, and inherent super damage resistance has been reduced on all supers except for Spectral Blades, Golden Gun, and Chaos Reach. Nova Warp, Thunder Crash, Blade Barrage, Nova Bomb, and Well of Radiance have all gone from 54 to 49% resistance, Hammer of Soul and Daybreak from 56 to 51, and Fist of Havoc, Burning Maul, Sentinel Shield, Arc Staff, Arc Lightning, and Shadow Shot are down from 60 to 53%. A couple of subclass branches are getting buffed, namely Bottom Tree Night Stalker and Top Tree Sentinel. Bottom Tree Night Stalker looks to further the fantasy of a speedy disruptor. Quote, Pathfinders need more tools to scout the battlefield and a skill-based way to engage with that gameplay more often. We should reward this scouting and battlefield control gameplay, executed well, with more opportunities to do the same. At the same time, Shadow Shot needed some quality of life improvements for long-standing frustrations, end quote. Graviton Forfeit may have found a home again in players' arsenals based on this information. Shadow Shot had its damage increased in PvP from 150 to 250, given improved tether accuracy near obstacles, and the suppression on hit will be more consistent. Top Tree Sentinel seeks to push the melee protector build a little bit more. Quote, "We want to focus more heavily on buffing allies so that players care about the timing of their buff usage. With a loop which allows players to get their melee energy back more quickly, this will be a more engaging path to play. Additionally, Ward of Dawn is currently not up to snuff and needs a buff that ties into the fantasy of buffing allies." End quote. Notable buffs here include increased health on Ward of Dawn and a stronger defensive strike benefit, giving allies who have an overshield melee energy on your kills. Bottom Tree Nova Bomb also got a slight 15% damage buff to Nova Bomb. As for nerfs, Top Tree Shadow Shot has had its damage sharing for the Night Stalker player specifically dropped from 100% to 50% to match those earlier debuff changes, and Flawless Execution from Middle Tree had its True Sight duration nerfed from 9 seconds to 3. Shattering Strike now unintentionally lasts 3 seconds as well. This is a bug that will be fixed in a future patch after Shadowkeep launches. Notable exclusions from these notes include Bottom Tree Striker and Bottom Tree Dawnblade. More may be coming in the future, I do not know. Next week we'll have a preview of Sandbox weapon changes, including Sunshot getting 12 shots in the mag, up from 8, and Graviton Lance getting a 30% PvE damage increase. As for PvP, Dead Cliffs, Legion's Gulch, Retribution, and Solitude will be taking the season off, as Bungie hopes to refine them a little bit more. Equinox, aka the big map, will only show up for Scorched, Mayhem, and Breakthrough, and Firebase Echo will only be for Supremacy, Mayhem, and Breakthrough. We have a new map coming called Fragment, along with returning Destiny 1 favorites, Widow's Court, and Twilight Gap. Skill and Glory ranking finally found each other on Tinder or something, and will be more impactful on your ranking in competitive play. In Season 8, your behind-the-scenes skill ratings that Bungie tracks have been mapped to glory ranks, so that as you play in Survival, the system should accelerate you towards the rank that more corresponds with your behind-the-scenes skill level. Then, when you reach your skill level, glory gains will start to even out again. Over time, your glory rank should become a truer reflection of your skill. Glory, Valor, and Infamy streaks have been tweaked. Instead of losses completely resetting your streak, they'll be set backwards by 1, or 2 if you're in a Glory playlist. Quote, "You can still lose Glory, but if your rank is at or below Fabled, you can't lose Glory if doing so would drop you below that rank. Each rank through Fabled acts as a floor for Glory." End quote. We got some previews of new armor coming with Shadowkeep, which I'll be showing on screen, so don't look at the screen if you don't want spoilers for that. But we're going to start the thoughts portion of the video right here. Now, during PAX West, the Garden of Salvation raid armor was discovered in the Collections tab. And it looks awfully like the Eververse armor that came out during Curse of Osiris. Titans specifically, and to a lesser extent, Warlocks and Hunters. It looks like it got a bit of like a retexturing, and then they added some blue glows. I was waiting for Bungie to comment on this situation before talking about it myself, seeing as they said that they were going to, but seeing as they didn't really address anything other than just showing the armor off, well, I guess I get to say something now. The raid armor is supposed to be the holy grail of armor for that season, I think at least. It's supposed to be the super show-off armor and the whole nine. The Titan armor is much more of an offender than the other two. Thematically accurate? Sure. I'll give you that. Does it look solid? Yeah. It looks fine. Doesn't look bad or anything. Raid weapons are already meme status, with only the exotic weapons from the raids being worth anything. Do we really need to chat with Molly Hatch here, Bungie? Do we? Like, is it exactly a reskin? No. But is there an argument for it being one? Yes. Why give us this ammunition? Why flirt with disaster here? I don't get it. This gives ammo for the in-game armor not as cool as Eververse armor argument. This is what players are talking about when they say that they feel miffed about activities in-game not offering armor as cool as the Eververse, or now the season rank levels. The phenotype armor should without a doubt be the armor set that comes from the raid. I totally get why it's not, but that doesn't make it sting less. Just please avoid this in the future. The following list will also drop Armor 2.0 armor when Shadowkeep launches, and it's basically a lot of armor. As for the Sandbox changes, I am a little concerned with a lack of attention to Bottom Tree Striker and Dawnblade. Spectral is definitely still strong as well. The nerfs to super damage reduction in both innate and masterworking armor might be enough to slow these down on their own, so we'll just have to kind of wait and see what happens with that, on top of reduced super energy gains across the board. More changes can always come down the road to tweak those back up, but you know, quickly would be good. I'm excited to see if PvP will actually go back to having gunfights past the 3-minute mark. But otherwise, all of these things were outlined in Luke Smith's post earlier in August, and were all stuff I spoke about in videos previous to that outline. We just actually have some numbers now. None of this is coming as a surprise whatsoever. It does sting a little bit to actually see numbers laid out and all that, for sure. It seems very heavy-handed to hit so many things at once, but after this past year of overwhelming strength, I'm fine with this as long as, again, things are monitored closely and tweaked accordingly. We cannot have things go unnoticed or unattended for months on end. Waiting full seasons to make adjustments feels like an eternity sometimes. Lunafactions and Rally Barricade getting nerfed is a big one. No longer auto-reloading, but rather giving a large speed boost to reloads. These things are still going to be important to a raid group. They're just not going to be as strong as they are now, which is both good and bad. It's good because we'll need to work a little harder to get things dead. You can't just mindlessly slaughter raid bosses without thinking. But bad because I don't think it's really going to change anything in a significant way. It's not like using those things is a bad idea going into Shadowkeep. They're still going to be beneficial, and I guess I was hoping for a change in how damage phases would play out instead of just plop rallies, plop wells, and go. I suppose that's more of a raid-specific problem that we'll talk about after Garden of Salvation, should we need to. I'm concerned about how formulaic raid damage phases have become, and I think things need to get changed up a little bit. But Lunas and rallies are still going to be vital to have, so don't think you're getting free of those boots just yet. Weapons of Light via War of Dawn is back, as you probably know. At a 35% damage buff, it is now the strongest damage buff available, and I don't know how excited I am as a Titan to go back to being a War of Dawn bot for a year of raiding. Well of Radiance being 25% makes sense. It's way easier to use and heals you, and you don't need to dip in and out of it for the damage bonus. I originally thought these damage debuffs were going to be hit way harder than they actually were. 30% for all of them is still a really good amount of bonus damage. I think I'm most surprised by Tractor Cannon also being 30%. I thought it was going to get hit way harder since it's so easy to apply. I do still think Well of Radiance is going to be used a good amount just due to ease of use. Finally, Glory ranking actually accounting for something and being reflective of skill to some level is great. Glory ranking has felt pointless because with static increases in Glory every game, there's minimal data to know how good you actually are. Hopefully Bungie maybe starts showing that hidden skill rating a little bit more going into the future. All in all, again, we talked about a lot of my thoughts already on these things in the director's cut video. I'm an advocate for bringing down player strength a little bit considering the past year or so. I would like to see difficulty be relevant in Destiny. I'd like to feel more like I'm actually earning the things I'm earning instead of just mindlessly blasting away at stuff. I'd also like to be rewarded for such things too, but we'll need to wait and see about that. But if all of these things get hit too hard, we can't have another year one of Destiny 2. Things need to be monitored and tweaked more often, and I think that will be Bungie's challenge for this year, especially with power levels now able to scale past a cap. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.